This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. It's supposed to be a vacant building after the city ordered residents out over safety concerns. But many who call the Manwin Hotel home say they have nowhere else to go and they're refusing to leave. CBC's Cameron McLean has the latest.
The doors to the Manwin Hotel are locked. The City of Winnipeg ordered everyone living here to leave earlier this month because of safety concerns. But we talked to one tenant who worries what will happen to the people living here if the city forces them out.
Some of these people that are, there's a couple people that are still upstairs there, they don't know.
Ken has lived at the Manwin Hotel on and off for years. He's one of 34 people told to vacate the hotel. But the owner told CBC News many of them returned because they had nowhere else to go. Ken, who didn't want to give his last name, says he worries about what will happen to them.
One guy barely walks up the stairs. He's got a gimped arm and stuff like that. Another guy, he has a braid in his head. He's at Salvation Army. He's got a cane and he's got one leg. I mean, really? Making these people go outside?
Firefighters responding to a fire in a suite last month found this back fire escape did not meet standards. Inspectors also cited multiple ongoing maintenance issues in the building. But Ken says he felt safe.
I've already had a counselor walk through here yesterday. I said, show me one hole in the floor. Show me where you're going to fall through. And nobody.
The City of Winnipeg and the province of Manitoba have committed to a new homelessness strategy. It involves moving people out of encampments and into housing with supports. Winnipeg Mayor Scott Gillingham says he fully supports that plan.
It's not a matter of just taking people from encampments into housing. It's got to be into housing that is safe and can provide the supports and the services that people need.
The Manwin is next door to the Main Street Project, one of the city's main homeless outreach organizations. A spokesperson told CBC News many of the Manwin tenants are familiar to their staff, and they are working with the tenants to find them housing. Losing housing is a traumatic experience, particularly with the current housing crisis we are in. But working to help people access safe and affordable housing so everyone has a dignified living situation is a focus of the work we do. An appeal hearing on the vacate order is set for February 10th. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Last night, we brought you a story about a 2-year-old boy whose arm became swollen after the fluid from his IV went into his tissue. We reported a surgeon said he could have lost his arm if his mother hadn't noticed. In fact, he could have lost feeling in his arm. We apologize for this error. With the Trump 2.0 administration now in the White House, Manitobans are already feeling the impacts. His policies have some people concerned and preparing for the impacts on immigration. The CBC's Rosanna Hempel reports.
This is where RCMP caught 6 migrants last week.
One had surrendered immediately. 5 of them had fled into the wooded area just behind me.
RCMP Sergeant Lance Goldow says they were trying to cross into Manitoba from the United States.
We're able to use the aerial asset that was available to us to essentially provide that thermal imaging, that aerial support, to exactly pinpoint where they are in the wooded area.
It's one of the latest irregular crossings since U.S. President Donald Trump's re-election. Along with his recent executive orders on immigration, it's leaving some people bracing for a potential influx of asylum claimants.
It's definitely concerning. We don't want to see the kind of surge that we did back in 2017 into 2018. If we do get these surges, our resources would get depleted pretty quickly.
Emerson Franklin Reeve Dave Carlson says the federal government's new border security measures are welcome. He hopes the added drones, helicopters, and patrols will intercept people before they get hurt.
When someone's trying to evade detection, and are in that level of desperation, there's potential for confrontations that could result in injury or, who knows, even death.
Since the election, more Americans and non-Americans living in the U.S. are calling local immigration lawyers, including Alistair Clark, anxious to come to Canada.
I've had a number of calls from individuals in the United States who are transgender, and they are thinking about coming to Canada to file a refugee claim. I've had a number of young people who want to come and work in Canada just based on their anxiety about a future in the United States.
But with recent federal cuts to immigration, Clark says 2025 will be a difficult year for people hoping to come to Canada. Rosanna Hempel, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Manitoba lags behind most provinces when it comes to dollars devoted to major mining, energy and forestry projects. That's according to a federal inventory of projects that are underway or planned for the next 10 years. CBC's Bartlett Kivas reports.
You know, I always say it, the economic horse pulls the social cart.
It's one of Premier Wab Kinu's favorite pearls of wisdom, but a new report from Natural Resources Canada suggests that horse might need a little help getting out of the stable. According to an annual inventory of natural resource projects underway or planned for the next 10 years, Manitoba has $1.7 billion worth of major mining and energy projects on the way. Only tiny Prince Edward Island has fewer dollars devoted to construction in these sectors. Robert Parsons, who teaches sustainability economics at the U of M, says while some projects are missing from the list, Manitoba could be doing more with critical minerals and biofuels.
We're being dissed a little bit. Now, I think it is not a damnation type report for us, but it is cautionary. I think we have to look at that.
The largest Manitoba projects on the list are upgrades to Manitoba Hydro's Point du Bois generating station and a pair of open-pit gold mines planned for the Lynn Lake area. The Mining Association of Manitoba says the federal inventory underestimates the value of this Alamos Gold project by hundreds of millions of dollars.
When this project does come online, you know, it's 600 people going to be working to build it and 450 operating it afterwards. So that'll definitely have a big impact here in Manitoba.
The NDP government didn't address the report's finding that Manitoba's lagging behind on major projects.
I am just happy that I have the opportunity to continue to talk about the great things that we're doing in the mining space and how our province is investment ready for mining.
The PC opposition was only too happy to address the report.
Manitoba has no plan to move forward on any type of economic development when we specifically talk about our natural resources.
The NDP says it was the PCs who dithered on energy and mining for 7.5 years in power. Bartlett Kivas, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Winnipeg Mayor Scott Gillingham has filled a vacancy in his inner circle. Mynarski Councillor Ross Eady is the newest member of EPC. He replaces Councillor Sherry Rowlands. She resigned from the committee Tuesday, claiming too much secrecy at City Hall. Eady was first elected to council in 2010. The Labour-affiliated councillor is the new chair of the Water, Waste and Environment Committee. His appointment comes as the city completes its most expensive infrastructure project in its history, upgrades to the $3 billion North End sewage treatment plant.
Given the portfolio and how important it is, and it is very important to all Winnipeggers, and that's the main reason I took it. He offered me what is our most difficult standing committee and departmental issues that we're going to have to deal with for the next couple of years.
Meantime, Evan Duncan will take over as chair of property and development. He takes that over from Rowlands. A dangerous stretch of highway in Manitoba's Interlake will soon have passing lanes. Work on Highway 8 between Winnipeg and Gimli starts this summer. Gimli resident Terry Nicholson started a petition last year calling for more safety features. 1,100 people signed it. Nicholson says the highway is especially busy in the summer when slow-moving cars are towing campers. She's seen many close calls when drivers try to pass several vehicles, then cut back in the line.
You could be ending up having to hit the ditch. And I often think that, oh my God, if somebody ever had to do that and they had a baby in the car or little kids or something, like it's very, very treacherous. People just don't seem to have very much patience with waiting anymore.
The province says the plan to add passing lanes was finalized before the petition. The work should be completed by fall 2026. Weather specialist Riley Lachuk in now. And Riley, we have gone through that dip of the roller coaster and we were on the high on the way back up now.
Starting to head back up, Brittany. Look at our daytime highs. So far. I say so far because we'll see things rising as we get through the overnight hours tonight. So you can already start to see where we've got some of that warmer air. -9s in Dauphin and Swan River. Roblin's at -10 right now. -15 in Winnipeg so far today. -16s, -17s into northwestern Ontario. So this warm pocket of air will continue to make its way eastward as we get through the night. Tonight, along with that, riding some instability. We've already started to see some of the flurry activity on the western side of the province into northwestern Manitoba. We've been kind of ebbing and flowing here in the south, at least, in and out of the cloud cover. So a mainly cloudy afternoon, but we have seen some sunny breaks through the Red River Valley and through parts of southern Manitoba throughout the day today. So temperature rises overnight, -12, your overnight temperature. A couple centimeters of snow to come overnight tonight. Periods of light snow tomorrow up to a high of -4 by the afternoon. Scattered flurries and a warm-up coming in near long range. I'll have that when I come back.
Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
A new exhibition is opening at the Winnipeg Art Gallery with a focus on pieces made by Black and Indigenous creators. More on that straight ahead. An upcoming exhibition at the Winnipeg Art Gallery will share the stories of Black and Indigenous communities through images and sound. The WAG says it's a first-of-its-kind exhibit in the province. CBC's Felicia Adam has more.
Piece by piece, a new exhibit takes shape. Called Threads of Kin and Belonging, it showcases Black and Indigenous art and the stories that come from them.
This is amazing.
Julia Lafreniere is the co-curator of the exhibit. She says it's a visual representation of conversations between both communities.
We're stronger together. When we offer care and love and listen to each other's unique stories, we're able to get farther and exist here on Treaty 1 in a better way.
The Winnipeg Art Gallery has more than 28,000 pieces in its permanent collection. Less than 1% of those are by First Nation and Métis artists. Works from Black artists total under 10 pieces. Co-curated by artist Elliot Walsh, he connected with Black artists to bring in more works of art for the show. Bria Fernandez is one of the artists. One of her recent artworks is this mural. The figure in it is Black. Her reasoning behind that? She's never seen it in Winnipeg. For her, the upcoming exhibit is vital for local artists.
It's harder for us maybe to get some opportunities, especially at the WAG or other places as well. I think this is a great step.
Lafreniere says the exhibit features work of 7 Black artists and 6 Indigenous artists.
They deserve to be here just as much as any other artists do. And it's important, and these stories deserve to be told, and I'm happy that we get to play a small role in that.
The exhibition opens on February the 7th. Both curators say it's the first step in many in making sure art by Black artists are here in galleries like this one. Felicia Adam, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The province is recognizing the end of a controversial facility for people with disabilities, closing a dark chapter in Manitoba's history. Advocates and those living with disabilities gathered at the legislature to mark the closure of the Manitoba Developmental Centre in Portage-la Prairie. It operated for more than 100 years. People with intellectual or developmental disabilities were forced to live there. A class action lawsuit over alleged abuses was settled last year for $17 million.
It makes me happy that the MDC is forever closed and people with intellectual disabilities don't have to worry about going back there. People with intellectual disabilities, myself included, should be able to live in the community rather than MDC, because living at the MDC wasn't the right placement for them.
A plaque will be part of a memorial at the site of the center's cemetery. With more Canadians caring for pets, Charles E. Agro takes a closer look at who's behind the rising cost of vet care in this country. It's part of a joint investigation into the cost of veterinary care by Marketplace, the Fifth Estate, and Radio Canada.
Doesn't that one have catnip in it?
When Guppy the cat stopped eating, Maya Terzic rushed him to the vet. After agreeing to a few $100s worth of blood work, she was shocked when she got a bill for $1,100.
I was like, wow, I can't pay for that right now.
She had no idea the clinic she'd just taken her cat to was owned by a corporation.
I was panicked. I was like, this is the only vet that I know.
Before 2010, almost all vet clinics in Canada were owned by the vet you visited. International conglomerates are now behind more than half of emergency and specialty hospitals and 20% of all vet clinics in Canada. Of the 3 biggest players in Canada, only VCA brands its clinics. Vet Strategy and NVA do not. So just like Maya, consumers may not know who's really behind their pet's care.
I think they're hiding it.
Insider Rima, whose name we've changed to protect her identity, spent 5 years working at a Vet Strategy clinic. She says the priority at those clinics was clear: increase profits.
At my hospital, we had 5 service fee increases within 1 year.
Do a little
she's
bit.
got a torn ACL.
Pricing strategies St. John-based vet Dr. Ivan Zach says are driving up the cost of care across the country.
The danger there is that everybody starts comparing to the clinic that is owned by a corporation that says, okay, well, we can go that high.
VCA says they offer a range of pet health care services in an effort to keep veterinary care accessible. NVA says they don't change the name of a clinic after they buy it to respect the legacy built by the veterinarian. Vet Strategy tells us that, like all industries, its operating costs have risen rapidly in recent years. They also say that they are committed to transparency, and information about its practices can be found on its website.
I think it's only fair to be honest with your customers and your clients, and then they can make an informed choice of where they want to go.
Guppy has made a full recovery, but if he does get sick again, Terzic says she won't be taking him back to a corporate clinic. Charles Ciagro, CBC News, Toronto.
Riley's back now, and while we are seeing some increasing temperatures, we also have some more flurries on the way.
Yeah, with the rise in temperatures comes that better chance of some instability, Brittany. So expect a few
It's a give and take, right?
Exactly. You know, we're giving away the cold weather, but we're taking in a little bit of flurry activity.
That's what we got.
Yeah. Let's get right into it. So here we go. We've started to see that shift in the jet stream a little bit further to the east. And what that is doing is it will allow our temperatures to start warming up as we get into the day on Friday, and certainly into next week, looking at this warm period lasting. That cold air has all exited off basically into Newfoundland and Labrador and off into the Atlantic. So that's where all the cold air is done, but still looking at some pretty cold conditions really right across eastern Canada. So you can see this area of low pressure over the territorial boundary, with that a trough kind of extending its way down, a surface trough, and with that a few flurries through the overnight hours. Really not talking a lot in terms of accumulation. I'll get into that in just a moment. But really, by the time you wake up in the morning tomorrow, do expect that we'll see at least a dusting of snow really right across the province, with some of that even lingering through the daytime on the western edge of the province. I think even here in Winnipeg, we have a chance at least of seeing some flurries as we get through the day tomorrow, and even into the evening, into the overnight period, Friday into Saturday, I think. Still that chance that we could see a few flurries as we head into Saturday. Saturday, cloudier. We start to get some sunshine back by the time we get into the afternoon hours, but certainly looking at a bit of a grayer weekend ahead at least before we start to get some sun back in next week. Maybe a bit more instability riding along the Hudson Bay coast as we get Saturday into Sunday. None of that really having an impact on southern Manitoba, but certainly looking at a little bit of snow as we get into next week. Really, like I mentioned, dusting, maybe a couple centimeters of snow across southern Manitoba. Maybe in some locations you pick up 2 to 4 centimeters, but I think in Winnipeg, 2 centimeters, a pretty safe bet by the time we get into the morning hours tomorrow. Winds do pick up along with this. We'll start to see our winds shifting around out of the northwest as we get into the day on Friday. So 15 gusting 30 by the time we get to the lunch hour. I think we even see some gusts up to 40 by the time we get into the afternoon hours for southern Manitoba, and certainly some wind along the border with Nunavut and along the Hudson Bay coast throughout the day on Friday. Waking up, though, far cry from where we were at the beginning of the week. -4s, -5s in the west first thing in the morning. Winnipeg, we wake up to a temperature around -11 tomorrow morning, and we're up to -4 by the time we get to the afternoon. -9 for Saturday, bit of clearing through Sunday, Monday, Brittany, and all the way up to -1 by the time we get to Tuesday.
Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
Well, a perfect day today if you're a snowman. We have more to come after the break. Stay with us. We're back right after this. It's deadline day for entry into the Liberal leadership race. Candidates must have submitted a $50,000 deposit by this evening. As Ashley Burke reports, the battle lines are being drawn within the Liberal caucus.
Liberal caucus members starting to pick sides, publicly endorsing the top contenders to replace Justin Trudeau.
My endorsement of Mr. Carney is because I think he's the best person to lead us into the next election.
For me, Chrystia Freeland has the experience we need at this time.
Former Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland now breaking away from previous policy she endorsed, like the carbon tax and changes to the capital gains tax, a move to distance herself from Trudeau.
For me, a huge emphasis is going to be reviving the party, reviving the grassroots of the party.
She's won over some members of cabinet.
For me, Christia's record of achievement speaks for itself. This is somebody who in her private life was a journalist and a managing editor, took on Putin.
But many more high-profile ministers known as powerful organizers and fundraisers are backing her main opponent.
When it comes to Mr. Carney, I have a lot of respect, and I've endorsed him, and I've sent a clear message to my base and to my organizers and to my volunteers to send a signal.
Carney, the former governor of the Bank of Canada, posting a campaign video.
I'm not a politician, but I've always been a Liberal.
Carney outlining why he thinks he's the best choice to take on Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre.
You can't stand up to Trump when you're working from his playbook.
We need a Liberal Party of Canada for the next generation.
Liberal House Leader Karina Gould is a long-shot contender in this race. She's targeting young Liberals and the grassroots while also trying to back away from her government's unpopular policies.
We have to be honest about the fact that Canadians have lost trust in our party. And part of it is because I don't think we responded to the issues that they were telling us mattered to them.
Gould, Freeland, and Carney are among those who have now submitted their paperwork and a $50,000 deposit to enter the race. Now it will take some time for the party to approve candidates before they become official. So far, Carney has the support of more than 30 MPs, Freeland around 25, and 2 are backing Gould. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
President Donald Trump continues to take swipes at Canada, this time calling the long-standing ally tough to deal with. His latest remarks came while speaking to global business leaders at the World Economic Forum. Trump also reiterated his threat to impose tariffs on Canada, threats that continue to be met with deep unease. CBC's Chelsea Kemp spoke with ag producers about how they're feeling.
Daniel Elias tries not to worry about the threat of a trade war between Canada and the United States. He's a cattle farmer from Elm Creek at Brandon's Egg Days. He says right now, the industry is the best he's ever seen, but thinks that could change if the United States acts on its tariff threats.
Where we should be sitting down and negotiating with the government on how we're going to just establish new trade regulations with a different administration. Rather than that, we're just sitting with our mouths shut, kind of cowering in the back corner.
President Donald Trump said he wants 25% tariffs placed on Canadian goods by February 1st. John Hurd doesn't want to see agriculture hammered by these economic measures. He says Americans like to buy Canadian because the dollar is cheaper. That means any tariffs could drive up prices.
They could buy more, so they like that. So if you put a tariff on that, they're going to have to buy less.
Some producers say tariffs from either country just hurts farmers' bottom line. They feel with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau stepping down, Canada's current government isn't prepared to take on Trump.
As farmers, we can weather the storms, we can work our way around it, but the government is who we need to help us. And if we don't have there is no voice right now.
Tariffs or not, the Canadian Federation of Independent Business wants retail sales tax removed from machinery and equipment.
Taking it seriously is very important. Having a plan to respond is very important, because we don't want it to, on February 1st, all of a sudden we're hit with these tariffs and now we're responding. We're already starting to lose millions of dollars.
That feeling is echoed by some producers at Egg Days who are uncertain about what's coming. Chelsea Kemp, CBC News, Brandon.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says the federal government is striving to avoid U.S. tariffs. But he says Canada will be ready with a strong response if Trump carries out his threat to impose them.
Whenever he says he's going to do it, as he keeps repeating, two things will happen. One, Canada will have a strong, robust response, because we don't want this, but we will respond if necessary. And two, prices for American consumers on just about everything will go up. And we don't think he wants that. So we're going to be there. He has talked about the border as being a great preoccupation for him. We have highlighted that less than 1% of illegal drugs coming into the United States, less than 1% of migrants going into the United States come from Canada. But we're still investing over $1 billion in strengthening our borders.
Hundreds of families in Jasper, Alberta remain without homes 6 months after a devastating wildfire tore through the town. And it's because the promised funding is being held up by a standoff between the province and the municipality. Julia Wong reports.
Hundreds of Jasper residents are still trying to recover after last summer's wildfire destroyed their homes. Many were relying on moving into interim housing promised by the Alberta government, but there have been some challenges. Now, several parcels of land have been set aside inside the national park and have been serviced and ready for that interim housing. The Alberta government says it wants to put in permanent single detached houses, but the municipality says there would only be space for about 60 of those units, not enough for the 600 households who need that temporary housing. It says high density housing is what's needed. The province says the roughly $100 million that's been offered hinges on those single detached homes.
And so as long as a project is being built that meets those requirements, that's what this money could be spent on. If we don't have a project that meets those requirements, then this money can't be spent.
There are a number of different initiatives going on right now, and especially now that we understand that the province is not going to be bringing any interim housing, we need to find other solutions.
Many residents who lost their homes have been staying in hotels, but have been told they need to move out soon or by the spring at the latest. Many say without temporary housing, they don't know where they're going to go. Some say they're frustrated at being in this state of limbo.
I lost everything overnight, and now I'm trying to fight and beg my government for a place to live. Yeah, it's disappointing for sure.
Parks Canada says it's working to secure high-density interim housing. The municipality says it's aiming to have that by the middle of February. But that help won't be enough for everyone who needs it. And some residents who lost their houses are growing weary and just want a place to call home. Julia Wong, CBC News, Jasper, Alberta.
A wildfire that erupted north of Los Angeles yesterday has spread to more than 41 square kilometers due to strong winds and dry brush. About 4,000 firefighters are battling this blaze and have achieved only 14% containment. But the fight is far from over. Steve Futterman reports.
Well, that's another day of dealing with a number of fires here in Southern California. The winds have been gusty at times, but not nearly as strong as they were a couple of weeks ago when the biggest fire during the past couple of weeks, the Palisades fire, broke out. Now, the biggest fire that the crews are battling right now is the Hughes fire. That's in an area called Castaic near Santa Clarita, north of Los Angeles. Now, that fire yesterday spread very rapidly. From the time it broke out, within 2 hours, it had already consumed around 20 square kilometers. Now, it has really slowed down. Yesterday, it was threatening residential areas. It's not threatening those areas today. Fire officials are sounding somewhat confident.
It moved very quickly, but we made an aggressive air attack with a robust air fleet, and they did an incredible job overnight, really protecting those homes in Castaic where we didn't lose a structure.
Now, the second major fire crews have had to deal with in the last 24 hours took place here in the Sepulveda Pass near the Bel Air section of Los Angeles, one of the most exclusive residential areas in Southern California. Fire crews were on it very, very quickly. They devoted 6 helicopters. They were doing water drop after water drop, and during the night, they essentially stopped this fire in its tracks. Still, people who had to evacuate are a bit shell-shocked.
I have a lab, and most of our artwork has already been stored over there a week and a half ago when it first started.
How are you feeling?
A little anxious.
It's hard to relax. It seems like everything is unstable.
Now, there was another small fire that did break out early today north of Los Angeles in Ventura County, the city of Oxnard. A local college there had to be evacuated, but fire crews really jumped on that very, very quickly and really stopped it from spreading. This red flag alert will continue until tomorrow. Then things should ease a bit. And this weekend, hard to believe, but we may actually get some rain. Not a lot, a very tiny bit, in fact. But at this point, fire crews, officials here will take anything that's wet coming from the sky, be it a water drop from a helicopter, a fixed-wing aircraft, or in this case, some rain from the clouds and Mother Nature. Steve Futterman for CBC News, Los Angeles.
An Italian Daredevil pilot has pulled off a world-first stunt, flying down a ski slope, literally. That's Dario Costa roaring down the slopes of the ski run in Austria, bobbing and weaving his plane down one of the most challenging ski courses in the world, reaching speeds of 350 kilometers per hour. He flew as close to the course as possible as he fought against gravity and depth perception challenged by white snow. But in some ways, the Red Bull Air Race pilot wasn't alone. American Ski Hall of Famer Darren Ralvez joined the dance from the ground the traditional way. Moving to a new country can be difficult, especially when you don't know anyone. So coming up after the break, we speak with one woman about her newcomer experience here in Manitoba, the good and the bad. Stay with us. Riley, I'm already looking ahead to the weekend, and even after the weekend. As much as I love a weekend, we have some even warmer temperatures coming afterwards. So we are on the good side of the roller coaster right now.
We're heading upward. With that, like I mentioned earlier, comes more of a risk of some flurries, a little bit of grayer skies.
And that iciness in the morning, because we still freeze overnight. So we do still need to be very careful.
We do, especially when you get that little skiff of snow. That is when things can get really icy, especially on streets and roadways and blowing
So cautionary tale, but some good to look forward to.
Yeah, exactly. Let's get to your dog walking forecast because we are looking at maybe a little bit of snow for that dog walk tomorrow morning. Periods of light snow as we get through the day. Tomorrow, I don't think Oliver will mind. I think Oliver's probably been itching for a bit of a walk, given it's been quite cold and we had that blizzard that rolled through late last week. Thank you, Matt, for sending this picture in. You can send yours to talkback@cbc.ca. So I mentioned that we are looking at some periods of light snow as we get through the day tomorrow. And with that comes an increase in our winds. Looking at winds, particularly outside the city, I think southwest 20 gusting to 40 as we head through the day tomorrow. Maybe we don't see gusts like that here in the downtown core of Winnipeg per se, but certainly outside the city, I think we can see some stronger gusts. We'll start to see that tapering off throughout the day tomorrow, shifting around out of the northwest by the time we get into the afternoon hours, -4 by the afternoon and -5 heading into the evening. So we have been on the cold side of the jet stream here, and this is the remnants of that deep ridge that set in and brought us all of that cold weather to start the week. As we get into the weekend, though, you can start to see things starting to reset a little bit here. And you can see even by the time we get into Monday, we're back here, at least in southern and southwestern Manitoba, on the warm side of the jet stream, which will allow some of that warmer southerly air into Manitoba. However, along the Hudson Bay coast, still looking at some cold conditions as we start next week. We start to see things moderating a bit as we get into Tuesday, but really we ebb and flow throughout the week next week between some of those warmer conditions and some of the colder conditions a little bit further to the north. So overnight tonight, we'll see temperatures rising. So these overnight lows, in most cases, we've actually already gotten to this, and temperatures are only up from here. So periods of light snow in the southwest, -10s, -12 for Brandon, -11 for Dauphin, but still some cold air back into northwestern Ontario, looking at -21 to -23 degrees. Into northern Manitoba, again, we've pretty much hit these overnight lows. It's all up from here, looking at temperatures starting around -4 for Flin Flon and the Pas. Scattered flurries generally right across northern Manitoba as we get through the day tomorrow, ending up at about -6, -8 for northwestern Manitoba. In the south, this main band of snow makes its way out as we get toward the lunch hour. Then behind that, mostly cloudy skies, but peaks of sunshine, and we get close to the freezing mark, Brittany, as we get through the afternoon hours. Your 7-day forecast is still ahead.
Thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
CBC has launched a new series called Welcome to Canada. For the next little while, we're exploring what it's like to be a newcomer here in Manitoba. Rebecca Ravondo moved to Winnipeg from Zimbabwe in 2023 for what she says is a one-of-a-kind school program at RRC Polytech. Here's a part of her story as she told Marcy Marcusa and some of the things she noticed first when she got here.
I was walking. I saw a lot of things, and you kind of have this kind of perception about a place. And as you walk into downtown, you see a lot of things, and some things are not nice. Like I saw people on drugs, and I saw things like that. But everything was nice in terms of the orderliness of the place. Things were very orderly here. And when I got to arrive Canada, they were very nice to me. My appointment was put in and everything. Like that was a seamless process. So I was happy about that. The bus system works. In my country, we're really packed in like public transport here. I was like, oh my gosh, I get a seat. I don't have to squash with anyone. So that was really nice as well. So yeah, it was okay.
So you notice some of obviously we have deep social problems that cause people to be on the streets. You were walking, so you're noticing these things. Was that a surprise to you?
Very much. Everything that I saw, I never saw it on the internet. This information, maybe, I don't know how media works here, but I didn't know there's a drug problem here. In my country, there is also a drug problem, but the scale of the problem here is much, much more than where I come from because people are more social, I think. Mm-hmm. This comes from like what you're saying, it's a social problem. People are lonely or people cannot handle pressure or whatever it is. But where I come from every day, the moment you open your eyes, it's pressure. You have to make a plan about electricity. We have 18-hour power cuts. You know, you can do maybe 2 months with no electricity. So you need to have solar. You need to cook on the fire. Like from the moment you open your eyes, you're making a plan. But here, I don't know if people are good at adjusting to making a plan.
So let's move to some of the challenges that you noticed. I know some of it, I understand, comes around sort of the idea of what you would have experienced in, and tell me if I'm characterizing this correctly, building community, in Zimbabwe, where you're from, and then what building community is like in Canada. They're different things, and that was a surprise to you, I understand.
It was a big surprise. I think also because of my age, I'm slightly older from when most people come to Canada in terms of for education, that is. I'm a mature student. So I'd sort of built my life, like everything was set. I knew like I could get support this way, this way, this way. I knew my ins and outs of my country. Then you come to a new place and you're like, oh my goodness, I have been like put into a system for years, like over a decade, where I knew where to get everything that I needed. And then you have to start again. For example, I walked into Walmart. The first time I walked into Walmart, I was there for 30 seconds. I literally walked back out. I was so overwhelmed. Like there was just so many products and like the place was so big. And I was like, I know nothing. I don't even know what soap to use anymore. Like in my country, I had my brands. I was like, I just walk in, like 10 minutes, I'm out. But I was like, I have to start again. I have to read everything. And there's a lot more options. In my country, there's like 3 things for one thing. There's like, I don't know, 30.
Did you have help to navigate what some of those differences were country to country?
When I came here, I knew one person, and she was a friend of a friend, and she was very kind. I'm so thankful for her because when I arrived, when I got to my Airbnb, like I was like what I saw, I just couldn't believe what I saw. And I was like, I need to move. I need to go to a hotel. So she's like, no, let me come to you and check how it is. And she got me a bus pass and she took paid for my first meal. And she was just telling me this. Then she's like, whenever you go somewhere and you need information, I'll be at work, but you can send me a message and I'll let you know how to get it done.
So you found a support.
Yes.
What do you mean when you say you couldn't believe what you saw? When you were, was it the overwhelmed feeling you're talking about?
Yes, okay. I was overwhelmed. It was just too much.
What's it been like for you to try and find and create community? Because the word that I was using where at times you felt that the Canadians can be icy, that's not my word. That was something that you felt.
Yes.
So can you give us an example of that?
Like on the bus. Let me go back to the bus because I used the bus for the first year I was here. Like, it's cheaper to have the bus. I know people sometimes cringe, like, oh, the bus. But, like, people on the bus sometimes are actually nice. You can speak to 1 or 2 people.
It's public transport.
It's public transport, yeah. So, for me, I love the bus, even still now. If I could, I would. It just doesn't make sense with kids. But when I first came here, everyone had earphones on. In my country, like, people would be talking. I would be like, how are you? How was your day? You'd all have a chat. You'd laugh, whatever. You don't even know this person. But I think we have, like, counseling in that way. Like, everywhere you go, you're kind of being counseled as you go. You can just stop in the road and someone will be like, are you okay? But here, like, people just walk past or people have their earphones on and you're like, but we're people, let's chat and like see what's going on because everyone is going through something or wants to share something. Like, it is lonely, but every day you're passing someone. Why don't you communicate? It was very strange for me. I didn't understand why things are that way.
How does that impact your sense of welcoming or community? Is even in terms of support for like building your life here, building, as you said, fulfilling needs, whether it's community around you for help with things or maybe people just dropping by. What did you notice that was different there?
I didn't like it, first of all, because I'm also a very social person. I love people. I mean, I've got 14 brothers and sisters. My family is huge. Like even in my home, my own personal home in Zimbabwe, we used to stay with lots of people and people just come and they just don't leave. And you're like, in African culture, it's okay. You don't make appointments. You just arrive at someone's house. People accommodate you. We're here now. You have to make appointments for everything to see someone. Like, you have to email someone first. I'm like, just call me. That's the kind of culture I come from. We're very direct. And here it's more like people are more very particular with the boundaries around their time, which is okay. I mean, I understand the society now, but then I did not feel welcome. I felt isolated. I felt like I was on my own. And I was like, okay, the only way to adjust is kind of tweak things slowly and find people who are like you. And over time, I managed to. I grew the first place I started with is my own community, Zimbabweans. I got in touch with some women, some older women who used to come, and they had a prayer group, and that's where they would come and pick me up, and then we'd go and pray, and then we did a conference, and then from there I was like, okay, fine, I'm good there, but I need to grow. Canada is diverse, There's not only Zimbabweans here, there's people from all over, and I was like, okay, let me just try speak to someone else from a different culture, and that's how I grew my community. Now I can't even keep up with the number of people that I know, but in the beginning it was really like, you had to push yourself, and you get exhausted sometimes. You're like, I'm trying so hard. When are things going to start to balance? When am I going to start to feel comfortable in this new space? It was a lot.
Still ahead, why this flower in Australia gathered a long line of visitors. See why in our Daily Lift. Plus, Riley's back with our 7-day forecast. We're back right after this. Manitobans are going to pay a bit more for natural gas as well as propane used for home heating. The province's Public Utilities Board has approved an increase for natural gas by Centragas as of February 1st. It says the increase is being prompted by higher purchasing costs. It means roughly $15 extra a year for a typical residential customer bill. The board also approved a hike in propane sold by Stitco for heating in Thompson, Flin Flon, and Snow Lake. That amounts to roughly $165 increase per customer per year.
So maybe the furnace won't kick in as often over the next few days. We are looking at temperatures warming up above seasonal tomorrow, a couple centimeters of snow, up to -4, -9 for Saturday. Clouds departing throughout the day toward a mix of sun and clouds into Sunday, Monday, -2 by Monday, -1 by Tuesday, with a good chance of flurries. And then we're looking at temperatures at around -3 to -6 as we get into mid next week. I accidentally took the long way home. So here I am. Now, here's something else that might warm you up on a colder winter day like we've seen: blooming flowers in a greenhouse.
Well, this flower in Australia gathered a really long line of visitors. So see why they took a walk to smell the flowers in our daily lift. This is a corpse flower, and it's bloomed for the first time in 15 years at the Royal Botanic Garden in Sydney. Some people lined up, Riley, for up to 2 hours to catch a glimpse and, of course, get a selfie with the rare bloom. Now, once it opens, it flowers for just 24 hours, and visitors wanted to catch a whiff of the smell that surrounds it when it blooms.
Probably close to like rotten egg or like something of like sulfur, that kind of smell. Probably the best way I would describe it.
It smells a little bit like when there's a dead animal in the house, but you don't know where it is or what it is. It's kind of that smell, like a musty, dead type of smell. I mean, was it a night smell? No, but it was impressive.
So horticulturalists noticed a few weeks ago the flower might be at the blooming stages, and they started to close observations on this. This is the 5th time this flower has bloomed. The last time it happened was in 2010.
Not sure. It looks pretty, but I don't know if I need that smell in my life.
I'll look at it. I'll look at it through the screen.
Pretty from afar.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we hope you all have a safe night. Stay warm. We'll see you back here tomorrow night.
See ya.